Hey, welcome to Wing Chair Books. I'm your host, Michael Philippone. Today I'm going to talk about Mairéad Byrne's book of poetry that came out this summer called The Best of What's Left of Heaven. This is put out by Publishing Genius Press, and you can buy it at Publishing Genius Press's website. I think it's just publishinggeniuspress.com. I will write it down below. I'll link it up and you can just click on it. But yeah, The Best of What's Left of Heaven. Frankly, for a book that was so easy to read, it's going to be pretty hard to talk about. Well, first I'll just give you the facts. The book, as you can see, is it's thick for a book of poetry. It's split into segments that are kind of like chapters. These include a chapter called Calendar, Everyday Lunacy, Found, Interviews, Numbers, War, Family, Poetry, Providence, Dedications, Instructions, Everything is Unlikely, and lastly, Everything Else. Like I said, it's going to be hard. First of all, something that I really liked about this book was the just in the voice and the way the poems were written, really reminded me, or it made me think that Miss Byrne is a person who spends a lot of time alone talking to herself. And I don't mean that in a mean way, because that is how I would describe myself. But the way they're written is like someone jotting down things that they not just thought to themselves, but actually spoke out loud. I'm just going to read a couple of these to you. So this one's from early on in the book, on page 36. It's called Would You? So if you could, would you? Would you, if you could? I mean, would you, if you could? Would you? Would you really? Would you, if you could? Would you? That's not necessarily, all the poems are pretty much like that in this section, Everyday Lunacy. A lot of repetition. That's not necessarily how all the poems in the book are alike, but each section is very, all the poems within are very, very similar. That being said, there's a section called Numbers, and also a section right after Numbers called War. And these were my least favorite parts of the book, because particularly Numbers and about half of the section War were conceptual poems. I'll let you see here. This one's called Happiness Levels, 1994 to 2004. This is the first poem from the section called Numbers. And if you can see that, it's literally just a numerical depiction of what the title said, Happiness Levels from 94 to 2004. And on like a couple pages later, there's a poem called Reviewing the 20th Century. And then it says, the age artists were, when they made the work, collected in this room of the museum. And then it proceeds on giving a bunch of numbers. And I think this kind of thing is really cool, and I think it's neat to see for the first time. But unlike a really touching or smart or clever or fun poem, which these poems were, that's how I describe all these poems in the book, save for a couple of these number poems. I just don't think, for me, they have a lot of, they're not the kind of things that I really need to come back to. When I open the book, it's like, oh, I forgot about this. I really need this today. Whereas some of the other ones really touched me on a level that was so sincere and so funny. It's just a lot of fun to read. I wrote down a couple more that I liked, and I'll read those. This one is from the section Family. It's on 107. This is a poem called Privacy. If you do not have a room, body odor can be a room. What then is a house? Like I said, it's the kind of thing that reminds me of someone thinking, or maybe more specifically, even like the kind of idea that you would say to yourself aloud if you were alone. And and this poem is very similar to the others in how short it is. I'll read another that I liked from page 116, also in the section called Family, and the title is The Sky, God's Television. That's it. That's the poem. There are a couple similar to this poem in that it's kind of like the poem is just like a clever subtitle to the title, which I do know, I'm pretty sure that kind of thing may annoy a lot of readers if they pick this up, but it's something that I really enjoyed. Here's another one just like that, but this is from the section called Poetry. The title is The Stigma of Self-Publication. I am so over it. There you go. That's the poem. Now, is that a poem? I don't care. I don't care what a poem is. I liked it. Some people may be like, that's not a poem. And if they don't like it, whatever. I like that. Here's another one I liked. Also from the section called Poetry. And this poem is called Poetry. The perfect art form for those who like to avoid crowds. And you can see that one right there. I liked it. So, like I said, this book, The Best of What's Left of Heaven by Mairéad Byrne, out from Publishing Genius Press this summer of 2010, was something that was a lot of fun, really clever, really touching, and really good. I enjoyed it. If you read it and enjoyed it, share it in your comments. I would love to hear it. And if not, I highly recommend checking it out. It's definitely something that I'm going back to over and over again, and will continue to be reading for as long as I have it. So that's it right there. This is Wing Chair Books. If you liked it, subscribe, and I will see you in your comments.